So yesterday I went to MetroCon. You probably already know that if you watched yesterday's vlog, but in case this is your first vlog, that's what happened yesterday. One of the big takeaways from that I netted from the panel of Jonathan Young and Caleb Hyles. If you're not familiar with them, they are relatively large YouTubers. I believe both of them have over 1 million subscribers. Long established creators, specifically in the, I don't even know what you want to call it, nerdcore or cover song niche. Okay, they do a lot of Disney stuff, that's how I found them. But they cover things all across the spectrum, and they also produce their own unique individual, what's the word I'm looking for, original music. They're very talented musicians. Either which way though, they hosted a panel, and the panel was predominantly centered around YouTube creators. People were allowed to ask questions. It was very informal. Unfortunately, Serena and I showed up late, which was a little awkward. But but no, tying back into what I just said, it was very informal, which is not a bad thing. It was a good thing. It was very awesome. They just kind of picked people out of the crowd, like, you got a question, you got a question, you got a question. And they, did their best to answer everyone's question. I didn't ask any questions during the actual panel, but other people did ask questions that I had, and I wanted to kind of talk about several of my biggest takeaways from the Jonathan Young and Caleb Hyles panel. First and foremost, your brand. The way that it was answered in a roundabout way was essentially your brand is just how you portray yourself. And I know that kind of goes without saying, right? But something that I've concerned myself, especially with the Let's Play channel, was how I was branding that, like how I was trying to make that me and sort of set aside from the rest of the, millions of YouTubers. And essentially what I took away from the answers that I received, or that the asker received, it was just do you. Essentially, for lack of a better word, just do you. If your thing is being goofy, if your thing is making, as Jonathan put it, like top-notch music videos, whatever your thing is, just double down on it. And I think I've identified what my thing is. My thing is that I am not a serious person, and I am very good at rambling. So I do that. So I talk a lot, and apparently that's relatively unique. So that's branding. Beyond branding, another thing they talked about that was a little bit interesting to me was the incorporation of an LLC. Now, obviously, that's not something that I'm going to need to worry about for a while, being that, well, shoot, I barely make any money off of YouTube as it is. Certainly not enough to start hiring people to do stuff. But in the future, probably will be the case. And that kind of ties into my other takeaway. One thing that Jonathan specifically mentioned was in his transition from early stage creator to making it a job. One of the things he did was, one, track how much time he was spending on it, and two, treated it like a job. Treating this like a job is something that I've kind of, I don't know, I've avoided doing. I don't know that I have avoided doing it, because I dedicated a lot of time to it. And I wake up every morning with the same, I have to get up, I gotta make a short, I gotta edit the vlog, I gotta do all this before my actual day job starts. But I don't necessarily look at it like a job, because when I think of looking at like a job, I think of deadlines and responsibilities and stress, and I suppose there are instances of all of those. But I don't know, I'm beating around the bush here. It's not a bad thing to look at it as a job. In fact, it's recommended. And perhaps I should take greater care to really double down in that regard. And then finally, one thing that was also said was do you. I know I kind of tied that into the branding thing, but do what you want to do. Go out and have fun. Now is the best time, better than ever before, to be an independent creator, independent musician, independent artist, whatever. The internet is there. Go do your thing. Put it out there, There's gonna be at least one other person that likes it, right? And if that's all there is, then that's all there is, and that's fine too. Ultimately, if you stay true to yourself and you're doing your own thing and you're producing the best version of that and you're constantly trying to improve, well then you're gonna have a great time. Because ultimately, and this is not necessarily something that ties in super well with what was said, but it's just my own thoughts on it. Ultimately, you do art. You artisticize. I made that word up myself. You do art, you create for yourself initially. Yes, the goal is to make it a job and to put it out there for other people to enjoy. But if you are the one that enjoys it most of all, well, I think you're succeeding, all right? And I think Jonathan, I think Caleb, I think most people would agree with me in that regard. And then finally, this wasn't asked during their panel, but I actually went to their table and I got a Polaroid with them. You can kind of see it there. I don't know if the camera's gonna pull focus properly, but yeah, they took a Polaroid with them, and that was super cool. Good guys, really good guys. Amazing musicians, even better people, really, if I could be completely honest with you. Anyways, what I asked them was how to go about working with other creators, like in your space. Like, it's something I have done before, right? I did the one video with Josh Jepson. I did the one video with Josh Jepson last December, but by and large, I think that's it. I mean, I've done stuff with my wife, with my brother, my sister, other friends, but as far as like collaborating with other creators, it's not necessarily something I've been able to do, and it's not for lack of trying either. I have put out some feelers here and there, but after talking to Jonathan and Caleb about how best to approach that sort of question, I think I've been doing it improperly. Honestly, I think I've been going at it with a little bit too much of a transactional approach, because I've reached out to some people and had some conversations around like, hey, I'd like to pay you to come join me for this video. And a lot of times people wouldn't even respond, and sometimes they'd respond and be like, yeah, that sounds nice, but I don't know. And it's just not like a relationship building sort of conversation. The way that I was suggested to go about it from them was to be extremely forthcoming with like who I am and what I'm doing. They said straight up to include like links of my prior work, like, hey, this is me, this is what I do. I think that, so they said you could also go about it two different ways after that. You could go about it like as a purely business sort of thing, like, hey, we could make some money together, we could make some great content together. Or two, and this is how they actually met, I just think you're a cool dude, I think we'd have a lot of fun together. And then also, yes, perhaps make some money together off of the content as well, but that's not necessarily of chief importance in that regard. And I think that I could incorporate their advice in a number of ways. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take all of this advice. I made a note on my phone during the panel, and then after I spoke with them at their booth. And I'm going to, start treating this more like a job. Funnest job ever, right? And obviously I have a normal 9-to-5, so it's not my full focus, but I'm committed. I love it, and I do think that I have a small select amount of skills that make me eligible for said profession. Who knows, ultimately. Well, all we can do is let the chips fall where they may after we've done our best, and there you have it. So, that's all for today. So thank you so very much for watching. I do appreciate it and hope that you enjoyed yourself. And with that said, I'll see you tomorrow.
I know that your powers of retention are as wet as a warthog's backside. But thick as you are, pay attention. My words are a matter of pride.